Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14 here. We are previewing SEC basketball games for this coming Saturday. That is February the 25th. We will do these roughly in order of tip-off. We'll start with Missouri's visit to Athens, Georgia. That is going to be at noon Central on the SEC Network. We do not have a line on this or any other games as we do this, which is taking place on Thursday morning. But what we do have are an average of predictive computers. Those are Ken Pomeroy, Bart Torvik, ESPN's BPI, and Jeff Sagarin. Those average out to having Missouri as a 3.1 point favorite, with, according to Pomeroy, Torvik, and BPI, Georgia's got a 40% chance of winning on its home floor. Georgia has been awful lately. Missouri, Blake, with a lot to play for here.
Well, there's a key part of this. Georgia's been awful on the road, not been awful at home. And I think that's what you have to consider here. You want Georgia's recent results at home: beat LSU by 2, beat Kentucky by 7, lost to Ole Miss by 4, beat South Carolina by 3, lost to Vanderbilt by 3, beat Mississippi State by 8. So, every home game they played has been close. And so, for that reason, I made a promise to Missouri fans, and I'm going to uphold that promise. They begged me on Twitter, and that was to never pick their team the rest of the season. So I'm not going to do it. I'm going to pick Georgia, because I'm going to be a person of my word to these Missouri fans who are really trying to wheel them into the NCAA tournament. And your final 3 games are against, bottom 5 teams in the SEC. You don't want to start a losing streak against those kind of teams. So I will pick Georgia to win this game, Chris. The reverse mojo is back. It works, and we'll see if it works here. So, Missouri fans, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm sorry, but I have to do it. I have to pick Georgia.
Pull up the graphic.
Which graphic? Am I still on a pitch count?
Any one of a number of graphics.
I don't know what I'm saying. Everybody's tired of listening to me with this voice. No, I don't do that before the game. I do that after the game. Okay. Ms. True will come through with a graphic after the game. But for now,
that's true.
I'm going to do Missouri fans a favor, and I'm going to pick Georgia. But in all honesty, I think this is a tricky game. I say that about these kind of road games. Just when you think Missouri is maybe sealing their bid, they do have 3 games against teams that will destroy their resume. And I just think that they need to be careful with that, is all I'm saying. Matchup-wise, yes, they are the better offensive team. If they get going shooting the ball, they should win this game. But any game in the SEC on the road, as we've seen recently, is tough. And I think that, Missouri's going to have to rebound well here. They're going to have to keep Georgia off the free throw line. If they can do those kind of things, I think they'll force enough turnovers. But, again, if you want my pick, picking Georgia.
Yeah, speaking of the road being tough, nice segue to the next game. Alabama found that out. We had said, hey, look, South Carolina been awful at home. Then it had the Brandon Miller matter, which we've talked about. I'm only mentioning it here because obviously Alabama was probably a little distracted. I don't mean to make light of the situation, but let's just call it what it is. When you're a 20-something point favorite, 21-point favorite by the computers, and that game goes into overtime, I think it's fair to question whether Alabama was at 100% mentally in that game. Anyway, enough rambling there. Arkansas visits Tuscaloosa, 1 Central, ESPN2. The computers have Alabama as about a 9.6-point favorite with an 81% chance of winning. Oh, boy, Blake. I mean, I think Alabama wins because nobody's beating Alabama in Tuscaloosa right now. But, my goodness, Arkansas's got Nick Smith Jr. back. Our last glimpse at Alabama begs some questions. What do you say here?
Well, I mean, Nick Smith didn't play in the first meeting. Alabama won by 15 in Bud Walton. That was over a month ago. Amari Burnett, of course, didn't play for Alabama at that point, so that's something else to consider. Yeah, I mean, I think with Nick Smith, offensively, it gives Arkansas more of a better dynamic to keep up with Alabama. If Alabama's, I'll say this, it gives them a better chance to keep up with Alabama if Alabama is not basically invincible like they have been in some of these recent home games. Look at the last 3 games they played at home. Scored 101 against Vanderbilt, 97 against Florida, 108 against Georgia. So, I mean, that's a lot of points. Can Arkansas make this more of a Mississippi State style game in Tuscaloosa? I think that's the question here. If they can, then they got a shot because they have Nick Smith back, and I think that's an important part of the equation. But I think it's going to be tough just because of what we've seen from Alabama in Tuscaloosa, and you kind of look at the situation where, I mean, like you said, you look at the South Carolina game. That's the game that surrounds everything with the story and all that. Well, now this game now comes back, and it's just look. I mean, I'm going to pick Alabama to win, but I think Arkansas can probably do a few more things now, like I keep saying, with Nick Smith on the floor against a team like Alabama than they could have before. But just if you just look at the recent trend for Alabama at Coleman Coliseum, I don't know how you pick against them at this point. So yeah, I will take Alabama, but this could be a really fun game just based on if Arkansas can make this more of the type of game they need it to be to win, which that against Alabama usually is making a lot of shots, not taking a lot of threes because they're not going to be able to keep up with Alabama on the 3-point line. And what do we always say about Arkansas too? That's a team that needs to be able to get some easy baskets, maybe force a few turnovers and get to the free throw line. Can they do all those things? Because that's what you got to do to beat Alabama, I think. And yeah, we'll see. I think it's hard to pick against Alabama in that setting. So
Next up, and
where are you going?
The voice is having a rough time here.
What do you got?
We've got 1 p.m. Central, ESPN. Excuse me, 2:30 Central.
Well, hold on.
SEC Network.
Who are you picking?
Oh, who? Sorry, we got a slight delay here. I'm taking Alabama straight up.
All right.
Maybe Arkansas to cover if it's around 10, but I don't know. To be honest, I just don't know what to make of Alabama right now. I mean, I know they're a great team, but from night to night, there's been a little bit of variation lately. Is that fair? And the same with Arkansas.
Yeah, I think it'd be an interesting. It's a very interesting game for a lot of reasons. So, yeah, we'll see.
Okay, now we will get to is the dogs at your house couldn't wait to hear, evidently, because they were barking. Barry wanted us to get right into this game. 2:30 SEC Network. A&M visits Starkville to face Mississippi State. Boy, this has got toss-up written all over it. The computer's average State is a 0.7 point favorite. If you want to be specific, Ken Pomeroy has got State as a 1 point favorite. Bart Torvik has got A&M as a half-point favorite. BPI has State as a 1.1 point favorite, and Sagarin's got State as a 1.4 point favorite. That averages out to a 53% probability of victory for Mississippi State. Blake, we talked about this one in bracketology. The Bulldogs really need this one if they're going to get into the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, it's a big one for Mississippi State. One of the things I've always said with them is, and it kind of showed against Missouri, is I just have a hard time trusting what they're going to do on offense. And I thought the approach was the bigger problem against Missouri. We talked about it. They shot too many threes. A&M's the kind of team that will force turnovers. I think that's a problem for Mississippi State. If Mississippi State gets happy shooting threes because A&M is just defending with the physicality they defend with, and you're settling for bad shots, I don't know how I could pick against A&M here. A&M just they're doing so many things well at this point. And you can look at some of their stats and say, well, they're only here or there. But remember, some of that goes into their stats came before they really started hitting their stride. And since then, they have just been so good. So I know it's a big game for Mississippi State, but in these kind of games, sure, maybe I should value the setting a little bit more. What's at stake for Mississippi State, but let's not forget what's at stake for A&M. This team is trying to play to win the SEC, and they can do it. They have a path to get there, and I think that all that combined, they have shown the ability to go on the road and win some games like this. And I'm going to give them the nod here, even though, like you said, I think the point whatever percent difference between the two is about right. I think this goes down to the wire with these two teams. Can A&M get to the free throw line? That's always the question, right? If they're not getting the free throw line, can they score enough? Can they get enough consistency elsewhere? But I just think I trust A&M more, and so I'm gonna take them even on the road here.
I agree with that. I'm going to give you two things that illustrate why. A&M 6-3 on the road. State is only 10-4 at home.
Yeah, that's all I got for you.
We're on the pitch count, folks, with Blake's voice. Okay, next one. We've got Auburn visiting Kentucky. CBS 3 Central. Kentucky about a 2.6-point favorite with a 60% chance to win. We have talked about Auburn really needing big wins. One here would very much help Auburn's case, and I think one here probably cements Kentucky's bid to the NCAA tournament. Blake, I just can't trust Auburn right now, and I feel like every time I trust Kentucky, I pay for it. So how do you sort this one out?
Well, I just think Kentucky looks better right now. I think they're just playing better basketball. And so Auburn, I don't trust Auburn right now. And I mean, look, they've lost some close games. I get it, but I just don't know. Like I've said, I think this stretch is going to be very interesting to see if they can keep their path to the tournament. And I think I trust Kentucky more right now. Like you said, just when you think you should trust Kentucky, they have one of those slip ups, but I don't know if this is it because I just, I think if you're just looking at the way the two teams are playing right now, we talked about that Ole Miss game for Auburn. I mean, look, they weren't overly great there either. And so I just think Kentucky's ability to rebound, especially on the offensive end, when you look at kind of how good they've been there, of course, with Sheboy and such. I keep mentioning Chris Livingston. Kentucky is starting to look like a well-rounded machine at times whenever they're at their best. Now, yes, it's still a team that just lost 2 weeks ago to Georgia on the road. But these last 3 games, I think you're seeing some things that are maybe, just maybe, working themselves out for good and to where they don't start going backwards. Again, I hesitate to say that because we've said it before, but I just think Kentucky is the pick here. Again, I trust them more in the spot, even though we've had trust issues with both teams. I just feel like, with the way Livingston's playing, way Wallace is playing, Sheboy, like their starting 5. I mean, Jacob Toppin, we probably don't talk about him enough. What he's done. I mean, how many games in a row now for Toppin? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
What, I think he was 19 and 11 on Wednesday.
12 games in a row he scored in double figures. So, I mean, we're not probably giving enough love to him. Antonio Reeves, can shoot the ball and go off at any time. So, I don't want to say I don't have any hesitation here, but because I do with Kentucky, you feel like you could always get burned, but especially this season. But I just don't know why I should pick. Give me a great reason why I should pick Auburn, I guess, because the way Auburn's been playing, I don't really see one right now. So,
yeah, I'm not going to be much help there. I don't trust Auburn's guards enough right now. The guy that I'm scared of is Jeni Broome.
Well, yeah, but he's also got Sheboy on the other side too, and that can
right. Although Sheboy's not a Not an elite defender, but
No,
still.
no. I'm not saying that. I just think when you consider fouls and stuff too, like how do your rotations change a little bit? Not that Auburn doesn't have options, but it's just I just think it's a let me see it before I'm wanting to pick Auburn to win this game.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Okay, South Carolina visits Tennessee, SEC Network 5 Central. The Vols about a 22.5-point favorite, according to the computers, led by ESPN's BPI, which has Tennessee as a 28.6-point favorite. Vols with a 98% probability of victory. We have talked about South Carolina playing competitively on the road in a number of situations lately, and they finally did it at home too, and nearly beating Alabama. That game went to overtime before Carolina lost. I feel like on Carolina's side, you've got G.G. Jackson back in the fold, where he's not banished to the bench like he was for a couple of weeks. He's playing well. I don't know if Chico Carter is going to be available for the Gamecocks or not. He missed the Alabama game. They nearly won it without him. Tennessee, you've got the continuing injuries with Josiah Jordan-James and Phillips, Julian Phillips. I don't know where those stand. It's a Thursday morning. Is this a trap where it feels like Tennessee's not playing well? South Carolina's been playing great, and Tennessee just opens up a can on South Carolina, and it's another 30-point win, which the Vols have had, a number of those. Are you feeling something different here?
Well, I mean, Tennessee won the previous game by 43. I think the reason why this line could be so high is based on the overall picture this season, just outside of what South Carolina's done the past 6 games. And the fact that, to me, this feels like the ultimate hangover effect. South Carolina didn't beat Alabama, but you think about how close you are to doing what they almost did, and that motivation to come back and now play a Tennessee team that is essentially not in desperation mode from a tournament standpoint, but in desperation mode just to play a good game. That's why I think this is tricky, because I think this could go a variety of ways here. So, I mean, of course, I'm going to pick Tennessee to win, but I wouldn't touch the spread, whatever it is on this one, because I don't love either option. Tennessee's not playing well enough to convince me they're going to beat somebody by 30 right now, especially a team that's playing well on the road, even as bad as South Carolina has been at times this season. But I'm also not going to trust South Carolina to necessarily come back with the same motivation they had against Alabama and have to face a Tennessee team that is as motivated, hopefully, as they've been this season, just based on how they've been playing. So I wouldn't touch this game from a betting standpoint. We're not bettors. We always say that, but I wouldn't, because I'm not sure what to expect here. You would think Tennessee has the advantage just with their defense, but you've said it. South Carolina just plays better, and you have to kind of go beyond the stats for South Carolina, especially when they play on the road. Even though, again, what have they done at home in the recent couple games? So I wouldn't touch this one. So
Yeah, the thing that makes this tricky is that these teams have both had a lot of outcomes, and I feel like the computers right now are undervaluing South Carolina a little bit because of stuff that happened a couple of months ago, and are probably overvaluing Tennessee for the same reason.
yep.
All right. Last game. No, I'm sorry. 2 more games left. Florida and Vanderbilt. This one in our hometown, or almost hometown of Nashville. We're in the Nashville area. 5 o'clock Central, SEC Network. Computers have split opinions on this. Vanderbilt is a 0.3-point underdog on average. Ken Pomeroy's got Florida favored by 1. Bart Torvik has Vanderbilt by 1.5 points. BPI's got Florida favored by almost a point, and so does Jeff Sagarin. Average it out. Vanderbilt's got a 51% chance of victory, I believe, according to this. Yeah. I mean, Kim Palmer's literally got this as a toss-up.
I apologize. I'm gonna enforce the pitch count rule here, because we've probably went way too long for
these
my
last
pitch
2
count
games
today.
are the 2 where they have the least at stake for the league. And
Let me just tell you, I'm picking Vanderbilt in this one. I think they'll bounce back. they obviously went to Gainesville and won not long ago, even with Castleton on the floor, right? And it's just a Liam Robbins effect. I mean, that's it to me. Like, it's just I'm gonna take who I think is gonna be the best player on the floor in this kind of game, and I think it's gonna be Liam Robbins. And we've said, what did Kentucky do against Florida? They got easier shots because Castleton wasn't there. I think that's going to be key for Vanderbilt in this one, which, it's obviously a Vanderbilt team that can rely on needing to hit some threes too. But I know Florida played well in stretches against Kentucky, but I think this is one where Vanderbilt maybe still thinks it has a path to get there. And the only way that happens is if they win this game. Even if it's having to win the SEC tournament or get to the championship, this becomes way more important, right? If you want to convince yourself you have a chance after losing to LSU, you have to win this game. And I think Jerry Stackhouse has actually done a pretty good job of having his guys motivated outside of just, as we said, what felt like the ultimate trap game at LSU. So I'll take Vanderbilt in this one.
Yeah, Vanderbilt hadn't played two awful games back to back in a while. And for Florida, I mean, look, we had buried the Gators without Castleton, but Florida gave Kentucky all it wanted on, what was it, Wednesday, and Riley Kugel's playing well. So there's some things going for the Gators there too. But wrapping it up, 7:30 on the SEC Network, LSU visits Ole Miss in a joust for who plays where on Wednesday night in Nashville in the SEC tournament. Computers have Ole Miss as a 5.2-point favorite with a 71% chance of winning. Blake, how do you size this one up?
I don't know. I mean, Ole Miss hasn't won a home game since December the 17th. I don't know. I just, I don't have much genius on this one, I don't think. Is there something to LSU winning a game and maybe just now being able to play basketball instead of just the pressure of trying to break the streak or whatever? Maybe. But, man, I don't know. I'll pick Ole Miss because, again, let's not act like this is, a game that's just going to define either season for either team. But surely Ole Miss has got to win one at home here the rest of the way, and they got LSU and A&M next. So I'll pick Ole Miss. I don't have a great breakdown of analysis for this one, in all honesty. I just think it's two teams that have certainly had their issues this season, and LSU breaking the streak, Ole Miss. I say all that like I think LSU actually matches up really well with Ole Miss. Oh man, I don't know.
AJ Williams was a handful for Lee Robbins.
He was,
got 35 points last time out.
This is again, in this kind of scenario, what do I usually do? I take the home team. So I'll take the home team.
Okay, lots of stuff coming up on the channel. We're having several football videos out of conference happenings. We've got some baseball stuff coming up as we're able to do it. We're trying to conserve Blake's voice a little bit, so don't know what that looks like exactly for the weekend yet. But in any case, if you want to catch all our content, hit the subscribe button. That costs you nothing. Hit the like button if you liked it. That helps us out. He's Blake Lovell. I'm Chris Lee. We're Southeastern 14. We'll see you soon.